The first $6 million man made-for-TV movie was based on the 1972 novel Cyborg, written by author Martin Caidin. Premiering on the ABC network in March 1973, The $6 Million Man, starring Lee Majors, told the story of former NASA astronaut Colonel Steve Austin, who is severely injured in the crash of an experimental aircraft. As the opening of the TV show stated, Steve Austin was a man barely alive. But Dr. Rudy Wells believed he would be the perfect candidate for a new technology known as bionics. Following hours of surgery, Steve Austin survives, but his right arm, both legs and left eye are all replaced with bionic implants, in an operation that cost $6 million. They rebuilt him, better, stronger, faster. Steve Austin's new bionic legs enabled him to run at speeds of 50 miles per hour. His bionic right arm can crush metal and is able to lift up to 2 tons in weight, and his new bionic eye works like a telephoto lens, enabling Steve to see things over great distances.
And his left eye. What does his eye do? It's like a zoom lens on a camera.
A zoom lens?
Amazing.
The US government funded the operation that saved Steve Austin's life, and in order to repay the debt, Steve becomes a secret agent for the OSI, the Office of Scientific Intelligence. Following 3 hugely successful television pilot movies in 1973, the ABC network aired 5 seasons of the $6 Million Man television show between 1974 and 1978. The show was easily the biggest TV hit of the decade, and the character of Colonel Steve Austin became an overnight pop culture phenomenon. Every week, adults and children all over the world tuned into their television sets to watch the latest $6 Million Man adventure. By the mid-70s, the $6 Million Man license had become a merchandising juggernaut when toy company Kenner signed on for the rights to produce a series of Bionic Man action figures. Kenner's range of $6 Million Man toys were a huge success, and today they are fondly remembered as one of the most beloved action figure toy lines ever made. Hello toy fans, my name is Tony and welcome to an Analog Toys special feature, Toy Histories with Kenner's $6 Million Man toy line. Kenner Products was an American toy company founded in 1947 in Cincinnati, Ohio. The company saw early success with Play-Doh in 1956 and the Easy Bake Oven in 1963. But the product line that really turned Kenner into a major player in the toy industry was their wildly popular range of $6 Million Man action figures. The $6 Million Man TV show was such a hit that Kenner knew any Steve Austin action figure was going to be a success, but they were also smart enough to realise that a single action figure wouldn't be enough to compete against other popular toy brands like Hasbro's G.I. Joe. Wanting to make a bold statement with the first wave of $6 Million Man toys being released in 1975, Kenner produced not only a Steve Austin action figure, but also the Bionic Transport and Repair Station and the Backpack Radio. But the key selling point was always the amazing play features that Kenner's designers had managed to pack into the $6 Million Man action figure.
Attention, Steve Austin. We have a red alert. Special UN representative Ayud Nadir has escaped Interpol surveillance. Find him, Austin. Once or twice in history, something new comes along. Something so different, so exciting, it defies the imagination. This year, Kenner has that something. The $6 Million Man.
The face sculpt on the first edition $6 Million Man action figure was superb, and it clearly resembled the handsome actor Lee Majors, who played the part of Steve Austin. The action figure came dressed in a red tracksuit with socks and running shoes, similar to what he wore during the introduction of the television show. The action figure also came with an accessory in the form of an engine block, so a child could simulate the strength in his bionic right arm. If you turn the figure's head to the right and then repeatedly depress the button on his back, this would crank up his bionic arm until he raised the engine block over his head. Steve's bionic arm also featured a rubber skin that could be rolled back to reveal his bionic circuits. But unfortunately, the rubber used for this skin easily perishes over time, and finding intact examples today is practically impossible. Topping off the action figure's play features is a wide-angled lens, so kids could simulate the use of Steve Austin's bionic eye. The bionic transport and repair station is also stunningly realised, fulfilling both roles of vehicle and playset. The bionic transport could be used on missions in its rocket mode, a perfect vehicle for a former astronaut. But it could also fold out into the repair station mode that was ingeniously designed to look like the operating room where Steve Austin underwent his bionic surgery. Kenner took a huge risk when they made a significant financial investment in order to produce the initial range of $6 Million Man toys, but this investment paid off. As soon as these toys hit store shelves, Kenner's sales broke the $100 million sales mark, and these toys also became the very first successful television license. By 1976, the $6 Million Man had become the #1 toy in America, and in a lackluster attempt to keep up with the bionic craze, rival toy companies began releasing their own knockoff versions of cyborg-styled characters. Hasbro's G.I. Joe came out with Mike Powers, the Atomic Man. Palitoy, the English company that produced the Action Man range, closely followed with their own Atomic Man action figure. And even Mattel got in on the action with Pulsar, the ultimate man of adventure. But ultimately, none of these toys would see the same level of success as the $6 Million Man, because they weren't backed up by a television show that was very quickly becoming the most popular show for an entire generation.
Son of a gun. It fits.
Well, you got to have a little more faith, Hodges.
You know, I didn't catch your name.
Well, it's on the suit.
When designing the second wave of $6 Million Man toys to be released in 1976, Kenner went all out and introduced new characters and many new accessories in order to fill out the range and increase the playability of the entire toy line. The first accessories released were the Critical Assignment arms and the Critical Assignment legs. These were excellent accessories that really served to expand the playability of Steve Austin's bionics, with features like an oxygen supply arm, a first aid leg, and an exploding leg.
Kenner's new $6 Million Man Mission Control Center. Assembly required.
Any report on the enemy agent? Better check headquarters while I pretend to recharge Steve Austin's bionic systems. We've contacted Oscar. He says check Area 7. Does radar pick up anything? Yes, and look what's on the monitor. Maskatron. Better get there fast.
$6 Million Man Mission Control Center. New from Kenner. Figure sold separately.
The first new character to be added to the $6 Million Man toy line was Maskatron. This toy was based on the character of Major Fred Sloan, played in the TV series by actor John Saxon. In the 1974 episode Day of the Robot, Colonel Steve Austin is assigned to protect his friend, Major Sloan, but unbeknownst to Steve, a criminal organisation has kidnapped Major Sloan and replaced him with a look-alike enemy android. In the climax of this famous episode, Steve Austin literally punches the face off this enemy android, revealing the robotic circuits underneath. In my opinion, Maskatron is the best action figure in the $6 Million Man range and remains a pinnacle of 1970s toy design. Absolutely packed with play features, Maskatron comes with 3 different interchangeable masks, representing Major Sloan, Steve Austin, and the director of the OSI, Oscar Goldman. Steve Austin could also destroy this action figure with blows to his body. By accurately striking the pressure points, Steve could make Maskatron's arms, legs, or head explode off his body. In 1975, TV audiences were first introduced to the character of Jaime Sommers, the Bionic Woman, and she proved so popular that she quickly received her own television show and a subsequent action figure. Expertly played by actress Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman became a huge star in her own right, and the accompanying action figure was a big hit with the girls of the 70s. Just like Steve Austin, the Bionic Woman had bionic legs and a bionic arm. But instead of having a bionic eye, Jaime Sommers had a bionic ear. One mistake that Kenner made was failing to focus on the adventurous aspects of the Bionic Woman character. Rather than giving her action-packed accessories, most additional products were made up of fashion-based items, but in that respect, Mattel's Barbie really had the market cornered, and Kenner's Bionic Woman was never going to be able to compete with the brand recognition held by Barbie dolls. With the double whammy of the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman being on TV every single week, Kenner pulled out all the stops in 1977 as the bionic craze was reaching the peak of its popularity. First off, Kenner released the second edition of the $6 Million Man action figure. This revised version of Steve Austin came with a new steel girder accessory, which he could easily grasp with his new bionic grip play feature. Kenner also released 3 brand new adventure sets for the $6 Million Man, which included the Test Flight at 75,000 feet outfit, the Mission to Mars outfit, and the OSI Undercover Assignment outfit. These outfits were all available on cardbacks, very similar to the way Hasbro sold additional outfits for their G.I. Joe figures. These sets expanded the playability of a child's $6 Million Man action figure and offered a fantastic variety of new play scenarios. Kenner even released the second edition $6 Million Man action figure, complete with the Test Flight at 75,000 feet set, but this was sold in extremely limited numbers, and today it is one of the hardest to find box pieces ever produced for the $6 Million Man toy line.
The $6 Million Man bionic mission vehicle. Assembly required.
Steve's ready. Check TV scanner. Uranium's gone. Steve will find it. He better fly there. Eject fuel tanks. 1, 2. There's the uranium. Start the winch. He's got it.
$6 Million Man bionic mission vehicle. New from Kenner. $6 Million Man sold separately.
Also included in the 1977 lineup was Steve Austin's boss, the director of the OSI, Oscar Goldman. In the television show, respected character actor Richard Anderson played the part of Oscar Goldman. In the show, the character was a very fashionable dresser, and Kenner brought this characteristic into the toy line, giving the Oscar Goldman action figure one of the funkiest outfits ever to come out of the 70s. Oscar Goldman is the man who originally authorised the expenditure of $6 million US tax dollars to pay for Steve Austin's bionic upgrades, and he went on to recruit Steve into the Office of Scientific Intelligence as a secret agent. Although the Oscar Goldman action figure didn't have play features like the $6 Million Man or Maskatron figures, his exploding briefcase more than made up for it. In order to safely open Oscar's briefcase, the handle had to be pulled all the way out and then twisted clockwise to reveal his top secret files. But if Oscar's briefcase was opened without the handle being pulled out first, it would explode, destroying all of the top secret contents. The character of Oscar Goldman commanded authority, and he was so important to the $6 Million Man storyline that Kenner gave him his own playset, the now very rare OSI headquarters. In 1978, TV show ratings were beginning to decline, along with Kenner's sales of $6 Million Man action figure toys. But Kenner didn't give up on this toy line. In fact, in 1978 they released many new products in what would eventually become known as the final year of release for Bionic Man toys. Kicking off the new range in 1978 was the third and final edition of the $6 Million Man action figure, which included a new biosonic arm. The Bionic Woman even got a new action figure adversary in the form of Fembot.
It's the Fembot, new from Kenner. And Jaime Sommers, the Bionic Woman, sold separately.
I'm Jaime Sommers.
Oh, no, you're not. I am. You're a Fembot.
Your paralyzer gave you away.
She's unmasked me. Now I have to disguise myself as a mystery baby. No one will recognize me. Not even Jamie. Ha ha!
Fembot comes with everything seen here. Jaime Sommers, the Bionic Woman, sold separately.
1978 also saw the introduction of the Bigfoot action figure. This toy was based on the best-known $6 Million Man storyline, The Secret of Bigfoot.
Can you understand me? Are you a man? Well, it never hurts to ask.
In the TV show, Colonel Steve Austin does battle with a giant Bigfoot, and as the story unfolds, audiences later find out that this Bigfoot is actually bionic. Well-known WWF wrestler Andre the Giant famously played the role of the bionic Bigfoot, but sadly the toy didn't live up to the reputation of the famous Bigfoot storyline. Featuring only 4 points of articulation and 1 exploding chest panel, this action figure was very lackluster when compared to the likes of Maskatron. In fact, Besides his modern day rarity, the only other thing that's notable about the Bionic Bigfoot action figure is that his mould was later used to manufacture the Chewbacca action figure for the Kenner range of large-sized Star Wars action figures. The final toy ever produced for the $6 Million Man range was the Venus space probe, and this toy drew its inspiration from the 1977 episode Death Probe. In the show, a Soviet launch of a probe to Venus malfunctions, bringing the probe down in the United States. Naturally, Steve Austin and the OSI are called in to investigate. The toy interpretation of this Venus space probe is much smaller in scale than its TV counterpart, but being the last toy ever made for Kenner's $6 Million Man line makes it extremely rare and highly desired by today's vintage toy enthusiasts. Quite often, a toy line will die out when the designers run out of original ideas, or when they simply stop caring about keeping the line fresh and exciting for kids, but this wasn't the case with Kenner's $6 Million Man line. These action figures went on to become some of the most beloved toys of an entire generation, and today there are very few children of the 70s that don't have a misty-eyed tale to tell you about their youthful adventures with a 13-inch tall plastic Steve Austin action figure. It's quite clear that Kenner continued to care about Steve Austin right up until the very end, always pushing the envelope and attempting to be more inventive with every additional release of the $6 Million Man action figure. In the end, Kenner's $6 Million Man may have been the first toy line successfully licensed by a TV property, but it also fell foul of the TV show's waning popularity. When kids stopped watching the show, they also stopped asking for the toys. This didn't seem to matter too much to Kenner though. They'd just picked up the rights to produce action figures for a little-known new science fiction B-movie entitled Star Wars.